we are doing very well. Alright, so now I hope that you have written this question already, which reads identify different parts of the ear and explain each part's what? Function. 8 good marks. Alright, I'm coming. Let me just share the video. Okay, I do hope that we are okay. I do hope that we are doing very well. Alright, so now here, take note. I was live. Let me say it was in the afternoon. Yes, whereby I gave you to write the following what? Questions. I gave you to write the following what? Questions. So now here, number 1, the question reads, identify different parts of the ear and explain each part's what? Function. Alright, I've seen that some people, they have joined. How are you? How are you? Good morning, by the way, to the following people who have joined. Okay, I do hope that you are doing well. Alright, so it is very much essential that you understand what sense organs are. Alright, so like what we discussed earlier, saying that when you talk about the sense organs, according to the syllabus, okay, we do have the following parts you have to know. So we have the same ear, we have the eye, and we do have the what? The skin. So it is very, very important for you to know each and every what part. And also for you to understand this part, you have first to know how you can try to answer it in an essay format. If you know how to answer it in an essay format, it will be way too simple for you to answer it in section A. Mainly when it comes to biology paper 2, section A, questions, they normally come, let me say, in form of what? Diagrams, or rather they can be just, let me say, they can simply ask you the questions directly, or rather just to give or to explain the labeled part which they will label for you on the diagram. So be it under the sense organs, these are some of the key parts you have to know very well. So we do have the ear, we do have the eye, we do have the what? The skin. So take note, in last year's examination internal, they came the eye in section A, okay, whereby they were asked to label the parts and also to give the what, the functions, and also about the eye accommodation. So those are very much essential as well. So in this tutorial, or rather live session, that you know it. Now guys, like what we have discussed, saying that sense organs, they do help in terms of what? Detecting change. They are sensitive, alright? They do help us to detect what? To detect change. Now here guys, about the what? About the ear. If you understand very well, here we do have the part which we call as the what? As the ear, as a what? As a sense organ. What you have to understand is that whenever you are trying to answer an essay key question, it is very important that before you even start answering the first key question, you must ask yourself, all right, let me first do this. Let me write answers here so that it's way too easy for us to follow up. So answers, okay, let me do this. Take note, whenever you are writing an essay relating, let me say, to the ear, to the eye, or be it the skin, the first sentence must clearly state or show that you are talking about the what? The sense organ. So here, the first key thing you will end up writing, okay, the first key thing you have first to write saying the ear. Take note what we said. We said that the ear, the eye, and the skin, these are what? Are sense organs. So it is very much essential that you state that these are what? Are sense what? Organs. So the first line plays a very important role for you to state clearly that this part which I'm about to explain is a sense organ. So you will end up saying the ear is a what? So the ear is a sense. Is a sense organ. It normally helps in terms of what? Detecting what? Change. So the ear is a sense what? Organ. Okay, so come up with this. So you will end up saying the ear is a sense organ. You end up saying responsible. Okay, you end up saying responsible. Okay, responsible, which means the function of it. So responsible for what? You will end up saying responsible for hearing. Okay, take note, the ear is responsible for what? For hearing. So the ear is a sense organ for, okay, so the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and what? We just end up saying and balance. Okay, and balance. All right, so it also plays a very important role in terms of what? Providing balance. Okay, we do have some parts which play a very important role in terms of what? The ear providing the same what? Balance. Speaking of the eustachian tube, the vestibular nerve, and other related what? Parts. So this first sentence plays a very important role. We have written saying the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and what? And balance. Then we can end up now putting what? A full stop here, because this sentence plays a very important role. Avoid just going directly answering, okay? At least you have first to stay saying that, okay, this part I am writing on is a sense organ and also it is responsible for such and such. So this plays a very important what? Role. So the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balance. This is how you get now to do what? To write. Then now, after writing this now, you have first to understand. So since when you are done writing this first pair or this first part, what are you going to, okay? So come up with a sketch, or rather a rough what? Drawing. So let me say it will appear to be like this. Okay, you just come up with a simple what? Sketch. Of the what? Of the ear, you just come up with a simple what? Simple sketch. Just a simple one. Okay, just a simple sketch. You will just end up doing like this. Okay, a simple sketch of the what? A simple sketch of the ear. Okay, whereby it will appear to look something like this. Just a simple sketch of the same what? Of the same what? Ear. Okay, so that at least you know what we are talking about. Okay, so here just a simple sketch. Okay, so that at least it's going to help you to come up with what? With parts. Okay, for you not to do what? For you not to forget these parts which we are going to do what? To list or talk about. To talk about. Okay, the parts which we are going to do what? To discuss or talk about and talk about. So this simple sketch is going to help you very well in order to name the parts very well. So now here, so this is a simple sketch. If you check very well, it is not complete. So you have to know that the sense organ, which is called the ear, it is divided into three parts. So here we have written the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balance. Then you end up saying it is what? It is divided. This is how now you're going to write. You're going to say it is divided into three parts. So it is divided into three parts. Then you will end up saying namely the outer. So namely the outer. So this ear which we are seeing here, it is divided into three major parts. We have what you call the outer part, then we have what you call the middle part, lastly, and the inner. Okay, and the inner. This is what we're going to talk about. So don't forget, the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balancing. It is divided into three parts, namely the outer, middle, and inner. This is what we're going to say. Now here, if you check, have just come up with a simple structure of what an ear looks like a bit, even though it is not what complete. So here we have said that, okay, this ear, it is divided into three major parts. So we have the outer part. So the word outer comes from the word out. Okay, it's more like outside. Okay, the visible part that we can see. So take note, this is the visible part of the what? Of the ear. Take note that this part, this structure we are seeing, it is divided in how many parts? Three major parts: the outer, the middle, and the inner. So what are we going to do here? So you have first to understand that here, what we are talking about in this case is like this. You have to check that here. Let us first get the what? Let me first try to wrap this part. So you can get your pen, or rather a pencil. What are you going to? So you can get a pencil, then you cut here. So you can cut. Then also here, if you check where there are 3 bones, so here we have 1, 2, 3. Then here we also have a tube which is down here. Then what you're going to do, you can also cut here. You can also cut here to be like this. So if you check, I have this first part. I will simply term it as A. Then I also have this middle part, which I will term it as what? B. Then also I have this last part, which I will term it as what? As C. This is what I'm trying to say here. All right. So I have the first part, the middle part, and the inner part. So this is the outer part, the middle part, then the inner part. So if you try to check very well, I have said that the ear, it is divided into 3 major parts. We have what you call the outer part, then we have what you call the middle part, and we have what you call the what? The inner part. So what are you going to do here exactly? It's quite too simple. You have to understand that the outer part, it is made up of what? It has 3 parts. So if you check, this is the part that we all touch, we do have, okay? The visible part. This visible part of the what? Of the ear. So this visible part of the ear, it is called the P. It is called the pinna. So others, they can also refer to it to be the auricle. Okay, so this is called the pinna, or you can call it as the what? As the auricle. Okay, so this visible part of the ear, it is called the what? The pinna. Then now if you check here, we do have a tiny space or a tiny hole here whereby we even put our headsets. Whenever we are listening to music, this is where we, like the way it is, this is the pinna. Then now here we do have a small space here, this one. So if you check, this is a tiny or a small space where we get to put our headset here. Now it has this drainage, it has this passage, okay, it has this passage. So this passage has a name. Take note, the first part, this outer part, we get to call it as the pinna. Then now we have this small space, okay? Now this small space has a drainage inside. So this drainage, we get to call it as the what? This is the ear canal, okay? So we get to call it as the ear canal, okay? So we get to call this part as the what? As the ear canal. So it plays a very important what? Role as well. So the outer part or the visible part, it is the pinna. Then now this drainage which we are seeing here, the space, we get to call it as the what? As the ear canal. Then now let us move. So here we have the pinna, we have the ear canal. Then now here we have now where the outer part ends. There is a part here, okay, which looks as if it's a drum. Okay, so here where now it ends, this part, this is what we call the what? The ear drum. Okay, so we have what you call the ear drum. Okay, so the outer part of the ear consists of the pinna, the ear canal, and the ear drum. So this is very much essential and very much what? Important. So take note, I've written saying the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balancing. It is divided into 3 parts, namely the outer, middle, and inner what? The same part. Then now the outer part of the ear to understand. That's my main aim here, not for you to fear the ear. So now here, if you check very well, the outer part, it has these parts. Now we go into the middle part, So if you check here downwards, we do have this part. Okay, here downwards, we do have this part, which looks as if it's going, it's down and it's going somewhere. Okay, so this part, we get to call it as the what? As the eustachian. Okay, so this part we get to refer to it as the eustachian what? Tube. So this part we get to call it as the what? As the eustachian tube. So we are on the middle part of the ear now. All right, so here the outer part, it has 3 parts. We are done. Then now on the middle part, we do have the what? The eustachian what? Tube. Then now if you check, we do have these 3 tiny bones. Okay, we do have these 3 tiny bones. So these 3 tiny bones which we are seeing here, okay, these are what we call the what? The ossicle. These are what we call the ossicles. Okay, so these we call them as the ossicle. So these are the ossicles. Okay, okay, so these are the ossicles. Take note that each and every bone here has a name. Okay, so here it is made up of what? How many bones? 3 bones. So each and every bone here has a name. So here the ossicles, it contains, or it has what? 3 bones. So each and every bone has a name here. So we have a bone. So the first bone, which we best refer to it as the what? Hammer. Okay, which has also a scientific name which is called the malleus. Okay, then the middle bone, which is index, 3 bones altogether, they make up the what you call the what? The ossicles, or the ear what? Ossicles. So these, they do play a very important what? Role as well. So if you check here, the question carries how many marks? 8 marks. So this simply tells that you have to come up with what? 8 major parts. So here we have 1 mark, and here we have 1 mark, and also here 1 mark, 1 mark, and also here we have what? 1 mark. So altogether 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let us come up with 80 parts. Then now we start now giving it function, okay, for you to get those good marks in biology. Then now after doing this, take note, we have come up with how many what? How many parts? We have come up with 5 parts. Then now what we're going to do, it is very much essential that now you do what? You get now to understand what each and every part does. Take note, we are remaining with how many parts? We are remaining with the 3 parts here. Okay, we are remaining with how many parts? 3 parts. We have written already what? 3. 1, 2, 3, or 5, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, then 5. So now here we are remaining with what? 3 more. Whereby we have to do what? To know and also what? Write verbal. Now here, before we even go any further, let us first talk about the outer part, the function. Okay, so here guys, let us do this. So this is the ear, all right? Then now here, let us assume that there's what? Music here, okay? So here there is what? Music. Yes, good morning, blessings. How are you? Let us assume that here we do have what? Music, which is what? Playing here. Then now here, in order for us to start now listening to the same music, what normally happens in this case? What normally happens is that what you have first to know is that for us to start, let me say, for us, in order to get to listen to the same sound or music, you have first to understand that this music or the sound that we get to hear, it enters the what? It enters the ear in the form of what? In the form of waves. So there is music here, okay? Let me say there is a party somewhere, okay? There is a party. So now here they are playing what? Loud music, or rather there's just music, okay? So here, the sound which is coming from here, it is in the form of what? It is in the form of waves. This is how it's moving, all right? So it is in the form of what? Of waves. Then now this sound is the one which is going to enter the what? The ear. Okay, so the sound that we normally hear from the environment, okay, it is in form of what? It is in form of waves. Okay, it is in form of what? Of waves. This is what you have to know and also understand. The sound that we get to do what? To hear from the environment, it is in the form of what? Of waves. That's what how you have to do what? To know and understand. Now, if you know, since this sound, it is coming from outside like this, so the first part that we will get, or the first part that we will collect the sound, it is called the pinna. So the main function, that's what we're trying to say here. So one of the main function of this pinna, no wonder it looks as if it's a what? It's a plate. It gets to do what? To collect. So the pinna collects the what? The sound from the what? From the environment. Take note that the sound that enters the ear, it is moving, or it moves in the form of what? Sound waves. Okay, like this. Then now it even enters the what? It enters the ear. So the main function of the pinna, it is to collect the sound from the what? From the environment. That's what we're trying to say in this case. Then now here, the sound now once it enters, it will pass through this passage. There is this passage which we are talking about, which we call it as the what? As the ear canal. So once the sound now enters, once it reaches this the outer part, or rather the visible part, which we can see, the sound, it will pass through this what? Drainage. This space which we are seeing here. So the sound will do what? We will pass through this what? Drainage, which we call it as the what? As the ear kana. That's what you're trying to say in this case. Now what you have to do now, now, when sound it is passing through this canal or this passage, what normally happens is that in this drainage which we are seeing, there is something which you have to know. In this drainage, we have what? Things. We have tiny hair. Okay, we do have what? Tiny hairs. Okay, we do have tiny hairs here. What do? They normally help in terms of what? Trapping. They normally help in terms of what? Trapping the dust which enters the what? Which enters the ear. Okay, it's more like this. This is the passage. Then now this is the sound. All right. So this sound, okay, if this sound contains some dirty particles, these tiny hairs, all right, we do have some tiny hairs which are found inside the what? The ear canal, which helps to do what? To trap the dust particles or dirty, okay? They normally help in terms of what? Trapping the dust and also what? Dirty particles. And also they normally prevent the ear from what? From different infections. Because just imagine if these tiny hairs they were not available here, which means anything will just be entering the what? The ear, and even the middle part and the inner part of the ear will be affected, actually will be damaged. So these tiny hairs which are found inside the ear canal, they normally help in terms of what? Trapping the dust. They normally trap the dust, and also they normally prevent the ear from what? From infections, different infections. If each and every part was just entering here into the ear, which means even the ear will be what? Will be damaged. The middle and together with the inner part will be what? Will be damaged. All right, so this they do play a very important role. So whenever you are explaining, make sure that you say that, okay, the ear canal, it's more like a funnel. It's a passage where the sound normally what? Passes, and it contains a tiny hairs inside of it, which normally traps the dust what? Particles, and it normally also affects and it also prevents what? The ear from what? Different what? Infections. So this plays a very important what? Role as well. Okay, like what we've said, that from infections, that's what we are trying to do what? To say and also discuss in this case. Then now here, once this sound now passes, so this sound now has passes, all right, is passing. So then now here, once now this sound passes, what will happen here? Take note, we do have the last part here, the last part of the what? Of the outer part of the ear, which we get to refer to it as the what? As the eardrum. We get to refer to it as the what? As the eardrum. Okay, so when this sound now passes this when this sound now passes, okay, in this what? Funnel. Okay, so what will happen is that when sound now enters, the sound is going to hit this what? Is going to hit this eardrum. Okay, so this sound, when it goes in, it will hit the what? The eardrum. Okay, so when now the sound hits the eardrum, take note that the sound that is entering the ear, it is entering in the form of what? In the form of waves. Then now once it enters, what happens is that this sound, it will hit the what? It will hit the eardrum. Then now what will happen is that the sound now, it will change. Okay, it will start moving in the form of what? Vibration. Okay, the sound will start now moving in the form of what? Vibration. So when the sound just hits the what? The eardrum, the sound now will normally stop moving in the form of what? Waves. It will now start moving in the form of what? Vibrations. So that's the major other key thing which you have to do what? To know and also understand, and then in the form of a paragraph. So it is very much essential now that you try how to write it now in a form of what? In a form of a paragraph, so that at least you know how to come up with what? With proper and interesting what? Writing. Okay, so now here, what are you going to do? We have talked about the pinna, we have talked about the ear canal and the eardrum. So let us do this. Take note, I want to teach you how to answer now. So we are coming now to the middle part and the inner part. Okay, this is how now you get to answer for you to get those good marks. So the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balance. It is divided into three parts, namely the outer, middle, and inner. Now here, what you have to understand, then I'm going to say the, okay, or you can even use a conjunction word, say, firstly, a comma, then now we talk about the what, the outer part. Then I'm going to say the outer part of the ear. So the outer part of the ear, end up saying, has what? Has three what? Has three parts. Okay, so the outer part of the ear has three what? Has three parts. Like what we had drawn this one, okay, the outer part. Okay, here there's a space like this. Okay, so this is the outer part. For you now not to forget, you can simply master this acronym. So the outer part of the ear consists of three parts. So the three parts which we get to call them as the what? P stands for pinna, then E stands for ear canal, then now the other E stands for the eardrum. Okay, so the outer part of the ear consists of the pinna, the eardrum, and the ear canal. So we end up writing saying firstly, outer part of the ear has three parts. Okay, so this plays a very important role. So has three parts. So we end up saying, namely, so the first part, which you call the what? The pinna, which can also be called as the auricle. Then now afterwards, we do have what you call the what? We do have what you call the ear what? The ear canal. The ear canal and the what? And the, so firstly, the outer part of the ear has three parts, namely pinna, ear canal, and the what? And the eardrum. Okay, and the eardrum. Then now here, after writing like this, now what are you going to do exactly? You start now explaining what each and every what part gets to do. So take note, we have written saying the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balancing. It is divided into three parts, namely the outer, middle, and inner. So firstly, the outer part of the ear has three parts, namely pinna, ear canal, and the eardrum. So now here we have said that, okay, the outer part consists of what? Three parts. Here, now what we're going to do, we have the first part which we call the pinna. So we end up saying full stop, then we end up saying pinna, let me say, is a visible part. Okay, so pinna is a visible what? Part of the what? Is the visible part of the ear. Take note, I have used this word visible, which means it can be seen. We can also feel it. We can touch it. We do have it. All right. So pinna is a visible what part? So pinna is a visible part of the what? Of the ear. So pinna is a visible part of the ear, or of the ear. Okay, which does what? Which collects, okay, which collects what? Which collects sounds from where? From the environment. Okay, from the environment. This is what you have to know and also what? Understand. Okay, this is what you have to know and understand. So pinna is a visible part of the ear which collects sound from the what? From the environment. Okay, actually, like what we have said, that the kind of sound which normally enters the ear, it is in the form of what? In the form of waves. Okay, so take note, this is what is very much essential and very much beneficial. So pinna is a visible part of the ear which collects sound from the what? From the environment. So this is very much essential. Then now we are not yet done, guys. We have the ear canal. We also have to explain what it does. So the ear canal. So now here we end up saying ear canal is a what? Is a passage, okay? Is a passage where, take note the kind of where we are using here, the one with H, which means a location, or rather a place. So ear canal is a passage where what? Sound, where sound what? Where sound passes. Where sound passes. Okay, this is how you get to answer way too simple and way too straightforward. Okay, this is what you get to answer Okay, way too simple and way too straightforward. Is it way too simple, guys? Are we enjoying? Are we enjoying it? Is it way too straightforward? So pinna is a visible part of the ear which collects sound from the environment. So ear canal is a passage where sound passes. Yes, Madam Imeode, this is biology. You are surprised. Eh? You wanted to start saying this is a normative, comparative, and a superlative degree. This is biology. Yeah. So don't forget whenever you are starting, let me say, whenever you start writing, you have to be specific to clearly state um, what you're writing on, saying that, okay, if you're writing about the ear, the eye, the skin, make sure that it's a sense organ. And you also give out its function, what it does, responsible for hearing and balancing. Okay, so it is divided into three parts, namely the outer, middle, okay, outer, middle, and the inner. So firstly, outer part of the ear has three passes. Okay, then passes end up saying and it does what? And it has what? And it has a tiny what? And it has tiny what? Hairs. Okay, which do what? Which helps to do what? So which helps to trap, which help to trap dusty and what? And dirty what? Particles. Okay. It also prevents what? It also prevents the ear. It also prevents the ear from what? From infections. So this is very much essential, guys. Okay, very much beneficial. So the ear is a sense organ responsible for hearing and balancing. It is divided into three parts, namely the outer, middle, and inner. So the first part, so firstly, outer part of the ear has three parts, namely pinna, ear canal, and the ear drum. So pinna is a visible part of the ear because it also prevents the ear from what? From infections. So this plays a very vital role a lot. Now here, after doing this now, it is very much essential for you to do what? To list down the other part. Okay. Now, lastly, to show that, okay, I'm about to mention the last part of the outer part. So lastly, so it's a conjunction rule to this one. Okay. So lastly, very much essential. Now here, lastly, so the other part, which we get to refer to it as the what? The other part we get to refer to it as the what? As the ear what? As the eardrum. We get to refer to it as the eardrum. Okay. Hello, blessings. How are you? All right, that's great. If you are enjoying blessings, that's okay. That's nice. Are you sitting for GCE or Indian examination? Blessings. Are you sitting for GCE or internal examination? So between the two, which one? Are you an internal candidate or a GCE candidate? Or internal? All right. That's nice. How is it? Is the ear way too difficult? Can you manage to answer or to write an essay when it comes to the ear? Is it way too simple? Have I tried to make it way too simple for you to understand? How is it? How is it? Have I tried in terms of helping you to understand it? Am I helping? key here. All right, so essential. So lastly, let us now finish up the last outer part. So here, take note guys, also whenever you're writing, if you see that you are having, let me say, thank you very much. Thank you. So here, if you see whenever you're writing guys, if you see that okay, the space is not enough in this case, all right? If the space is not enough, what are you going to do? Leave it. If you're writing now during examination, if you have seen that okay, the word which I'm about to write here, it's way too big, what are you going to do? Don't try by all means to force the word here, right? Write it in the next new line. Why are you so stingy? As if it's your paper. It's the government paper, right? Make sure that you do what? You write the complete long word in the next what? Line, so that it fits very well. So here we do have the last part, which we call it as the eardrum. So here, what are we going to say? So lastly, put the comma to show that okay, we are about to mention the last part of the what? Of the outer part of the ear. So the eardrum, okay, it what? It vibrates. Take note that when the sound which enters the ear in the form of what? Waves, it hits or it touches this what? Eardrum, it what?